Hey y'all. Uh it's 7:30 in the morning. Um I know I haven't been on to do a video in a while. A lot of things been going on. Um I was trying to find somewhere to set this. Nope. Haha, I know where my phone stand is now. Got me a little station set up in here in this extra room where the rabbits was at, since I don't have them anymore. And that way my house doesn't smell like a nail salon. uh so yeah, there's that. Let's see if I can get this. There we go. Now what? Let me put it around over here. Anyway. I worked for like 2 weeks. And then there was another company out there that kept trying to get us run off, and they finally succeeded. They got us kicked off the job completely. So they took a couple weeks, and then supposedly on Monday we're supposed to start again, but in a different place. Then like not the last day, but the second to last day. I had this really funny suspicion that I needed to get on Facebook, because I normally don't have the Messenger app on my phone. So I'm gonna make me some coffee. And I definitely do not have the Facebook app on my phone, but I still have my Facebook account because of my family. My kids and all that. Anyway, something told me to get on Facebook. And so I did. And it wasn't even 5 minutes that I downloaded the app on my phone that I got a message from my oldest son. He's fixing to be 21 years old. He's never really had that much of a relationship with his dad, because his dad was an extreme drug addict. And he told me, he says, "Mama." I said, "Yeah." He says, "I got something I need to tell you before you find it out some other way from someone else." I'm like, "What is wrong?" And he said, "Well," he says, because he never called his dad dad. He called him by his name. And it kind of caught me a little bit. He's like, "My dad OD'd." I said, "Okay," and I didn't know what to say. I haven't had much of a relationship with this man in like 20 years. We were together for like 3 months out of our son's life. Maybe a little bit longer than that, but not by much. And I asked him, I said, so is he okay? Or did he pass? He said, no, Mama, he passed away. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to feel. Because regardless of whether we had much of a relationship between us, like as far as a couple or anything like that, that doesn't matter to me. I've always loved this man because he's the father of my child. We were always friends. Every year on my birthday and one of my kids' birthday and his son's birthday, we have one child together. And both of us have 4 kids altogether. Well, no, he has 5 now. But he would call me on my birthday or message me on my birthday and all of my kids' birthdays. And all 4 of my kids, which, my first is also his. But he would always say, hey, baby mama, happy birthday, or you know what today is, or something like that. And every year on his birthday and for Father's Day, and he did on Mother's Day for me as well. But every year on Father's Day and our son's birthday and stuff like that, I'd send him a message, hey baby daddy, how you doing? So we've always been friends. We were always better as friends. We did have a lot of issues between the two of us in the first year of our son's life, But I broke down. I couldn't think straight. I couldn't do anything. And I cried for pretty much 3 days straight, And then I told him, I told my son, I said, well, I still love your dad, no matter what. I said, I don't know what I ever saw in him. I said, but I've always loved him because of you. And he said, I was meaning to ask you about that. I said, what? He said, what it was that you seen in my father. And I said, I don't know. He said, because he never had nothing to offer nobody. I said, I know this. He said, especially feelings wise. And I said, I know this. And the sad thing is he doesn't feel anything that I know of, that he's been able to show. But he's never really been one for showing his feelings, his emotions, or anything. The last time I seen him cry or know of him crying was for about 5 minutes when he was 7 years old. And we were at his nanny's house, his father's mother. And it was like around his birthday. And we were celebrating at his nanny's house. And one of the kids that was at the house came running in. I'm not sure if it was my other son or his other sister. But I think there was like 3 of them that come in screaming, TJ's fell, TJ hurt himself, TJ is bleeding, and he's crying. And I flew outside, and he's sitting on the ground, he's crying. And I asked him, I said, what happened? He said, I fell, Mama. He said, I fell right there. And he told me he fell on his knee. So they were running around playing, chasing each other. And he fell by the tree, and we looked and we couldn't find nothing there to make him bleed like that. Because the roots were not above the ground, they were underground. Well, we found out later that it was a piece of glass. And it was still in his knee. We immediately rushed him to the hospital, immediately rushed him to the emergency room, which is like 5 minutes away. And he stopped crying after I got outside and I asked him what happened. He immediately stopped crying. Almost immediately stopped crying. And I said, well, let's go to the hospital. And he's like, okay, but I don't want no shots. I said, I'll tell him not to give you no shots. And he's like, okay, Mama, let's go then. And he was fine. We got to the hospital. They checked his knee. And me and his nanny sitting there, and his dad's on the other side of the table of him. And uh, the doctor said he needed stitches and that he had to take a big old hunk of glass out of his knee. And TJ started crying again. And I said, don't worry. I said, they don't hurt. He's like, yes, because they're going to use a needle. I said, yeah, but it don't hurt. I said, you're already hurting now anyway. I said, it ain't going to hurt no more than what it already does. He said, but I don't want to see it. I said, you don't have to see it. And when I was about his age, I had to get stitches between my toes on my right foot. No. Yeah, on my right foot. And so I knew what it was like to look down and see them, sewing you up. And at that young of an age. So I kept him distracted. I'm like, it's like, I was like, teach. He's like, yeah, Mama. I said, lay back, relax, and close your eyes. And so he did. I said, now, imagine your favorite cartoon. He said, Mama, you already know what that is. I said, I know your favorite cartoon is Scooby-Doo. He said, yes, Mama. I said, but which one? He's like, oh, yeah, that's right, because there's so many. He stopped and thought about it. He said, it'd be a movie. I said, which movie? And he said, Scooby-Doo and the Loch Ness Monster. I said, okay. So I know that one. He's like, yeah, I can see it. Like I'm watching it already. I said, okay, tell me what's going on. Tell me what's happening. He said, but Mama, you know what the movie is. You know how the movie goes. I said, but tell me. I said, tell me like you're telling me a story. And he immediately started smiling. And he started telling me about it. I said, okay, what happens next? And, so-and-so, keep going. Okay, what happens next? And he just sitting there telling me about it with his eyes closed, his little arms crossed across his stomach, and the doctor steadily pulling the glass out of his knee, cleaning it up, just, getting on any kind of, in any kind of anything that would cause an infection or anything like that. He numbed it before he did anything. And TJ never felt nothing. And then he started sewing up his knee. And then I was like, all right, cool. What happens next? And he started to tell me, and I knew the doctor was fixing to be done. And the doctor told me, says, straighten your leg out there, little man. And TJ looked at me, and I said, straighten your leg. And so he straightened his leg out. He didn't have it bent, but he had it like half bent where it was like taut enough to where the skin would line up where it's supposed to, but loose. His skin was loose enough to where he could sew it properly and not have to pull on it and stuff like that, or straight out where it would have been, all cockeyed, So he's like, I was like, straighten your leg out the rest of the way. So he laid it down on the table, and he started to tell me some more about, his Scooby-Doo movie. And he says, what's he doing now? I said, he is wrapping your knee up. He said, what do you mean? I said, he put like a thing on the front of your knee where you got cut at. I said, he wrapped some stuff around it so it won't come off. And he put some medicine on it. And he says, he didn't put no stitches? I said, yeah, Bubba. I said, he put stitches. He said, I didn't even know. I didn't feel it. I said, that's because you were telling me your story. And he's like, all right. And he thought that was cool. And he loved his pawpaw. His pawpaw was a pretty cool dude, And he died from a heart attack a couple years ago, probably about 6-7 years ago. And he cried, but he didn't cry. You know what I mean? He felt it, but he never cried physically. And now, he's says they're going to cremate his dad. And he says, he said, my papa had this wooden football that he had specially made for him. He says, Jeremy always wanted that football. He's like, when you pass away, I want that football. And his dad always picked on him. He's like, no, I'm giving it to TJ. TJ's going to get it. It used to upset him so bad. And he told me, he says, so Mama, what I'm going to do is, because we can't afford a funeral or anything, he said, we're going to have him cremated. And he says, I'm going to have a hole, like a box, a hidden box, cut in to Papa's football to put some of his ashes in and close it up and keep those ashes. Those are the ashes I'm going to keep with me forever. He said, and the rest of his ashes, we're going to go, he said, we're going to hold them until we can afford to have a memorial service. And then after the memorial service, he says, we're going to spread his ashes in the river that him and my Aunt Jessie, which is Jeremy's sister, he said that him and Aunt Jessie played in all the time, their favorite spot from whenever they were kids. And I know where that is. I told him, I said, before you spread them ashes, I said, you need to buy you a little vial thing that seals up. I said, buy me a little vial thing and put his ashes in it and send them to me. Or bring them to me. He says, if I can, I will. He said, I don't think you can send them through the mail. I said, honestly, I don't know. I said, you can hide them in something. I don't care. I said, but if you can't send them through the mail, bring them to me. Because I'm going to try to get them down here sometime. And maybe we'll do a few videos together or something. But it's been a hard couple weeks. Then my phone got cut off for like 2-3 days. And then my internet got shut off. And the only thing I could use was WhatsApp. Because they left me enough internet to where I could have communication out, with someone, with family members and stuff. And that was it. I couldn't even use the other phone app I have on my phone. And then if I left the house, I didn't have nothing, Then I was without a car for a couple days. And I'm telling y'all, it's been ridiculous. And then I finally talked to my cousin the other day, yesterday. And the only reason why I let him, I was like, hey, did you hear about Jeremy? And he said, my daddy called me and told me something about he passed away from an overdose. He said, but we don't know no details. Do you? I said, can I call you? Are you busy right now? Can I call you? And he's like, yeah, go ahead. And he gave me his phone number because I was talking to him on Messenger. So I called him. And he said, so what was the deal? And I told him exactly what my son told me. Which was, he was riding around doing drugs with one of his buddies. One of his drug buddies. Or maybe his girlfriend. Nobody knows yet. And, whoever was with him was driving. He was in the passenger seat. And they seen that he was overdosing. And they pulled off on the side of the road and left him in the car and walked away. And didn't call no ambulance, didn't call no fire department, didn't call no police, didn't even call his family. They didn't do nothing. They seen he was overdosing and they walked away and left him to die. I mean, hell, I would have at least called his family, if it were me. But no, he didn't do nothing. He just walked away and let his friend die. Knowing he had kids and everything. And, I asked my son, I said, but I thought he was doing good now. He said he was. He said he'd been clean for more than a year. He'd, been doing good. He's gaining weight again, and he was, growing him out a beard and all this kind of other stuff. He was trying to, we were trying to have an actual father-son relationship. And he said, I just got to where I wanted to have anything to do with him. And he confided in me, he confided in me that he was having issues with his girlfriend. That he didn't know what was going to happen. And the next thing he knows, they found him dead on the side of the road 2 days later. And from an overdose. So I guess he assumed that he would still be able to do the same amount of drugs that he did before. And I told him so many times, if you feel like you're going to relapse, you need to call me. I said, I know how it feels. I've been there. I said, I love you, and I don't want anything to happen to you. I want our son to grow up with you in his life clean. He said, I want that too. I said, so if you ever feel like you got the urge, I said, call me. And he says, I'll try to do that. He never did. Never did. And like I said, he'd been clean for over a year, supposedly. And he was in rehab, and he was doing everything he was supposed to be doing to be clean. He was getting constantly drug tested and everything else. And I guess he just assumed that he'd be able to tolerate the same amount because he used to do them hard. He was heavy and hard with his drugs. Heroin and morphine and Oxycontin. And, he did a lot of different pills. He did meth, he did crystal, or coke, he did everything. Acid, all of that. All at the same time. Also, I'm surprised he's lived as long as he has. He's almost 40. He was almost 40 years old. And that was it. He wasn't even 40 years old yet. He's like 38. 38, 39. And that's all the longer he lived. I really wish he'd have called me. My cousin was one of his best friends growing up. 2 of my cousins. That's how I met him, was because of my cousins. And I don't know. But anyways, I gotta redo my liner. I don't know if you can notice that I sound a little bit different because it's like, I feel like they're really big right now. And I don't have any adhesive in except for one of the C-Bond wafer things. And this time I got the upper ones. And it just like feels bulky. So, I don't know. Like, as far as, like, the way they feel in my mouth, it feels normal. They don't feel big, like, as far as my bite goes or anything like that. It's, like, where the palate is, going towards the back, where the palate ends. That's where I feel like it sits down further right now. And then it's trying to lift off of the reline. It's trying to lift off of the denture in the back. And everything, so I'm going to have to redo it. But I'm going to go ahead and get off here because it's already getting long and I didn't want to do a video this long. So, like and subscribe if you're not already. For those of you who are. thank you so much. You know, I appreciate you always, every day. I'm praying for all of y'all that you stay healthy. And if you're already sick, you know, that I'll be praying for you to get well soon. And take care of yourselves. If you're a recovering addict, find someone to talk to. I mean, you can talk to me. I know how it feels. And just find someone to talk to. Don't relapse. And if you have never done drugs, don't ever start. I mean, for real, don't ever start. I mean, it might seem fun at the moment you're doing it, but then whenever you don't have it, it's really bad. And you'll do anything. And then you can wind up like my ex. And I don't want to see that for anyone. You're not the only person suffering. You know, everyone around you suffers with you. Just remember that. And I'll always be here for any of you. So, I'm gonna go ahead and get off here. And we'll see y'all later.